Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to tell you why you should get rid of cursing in your game, in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, as a dungeon master and a dungeon player, okay? Alright, so the biggest reason why is for when you come up, right? Now, what does that mean? Now, I know a lot of you out there have a table, and you're like, I got my table, and I'm running for my table. But there's an opportunity for you to come up at any given time. You could, and how do you come up as a dungeon player or a dungeon master? This is mostly for dungeon masters, but it applies to dungeon players as well. So, a dungeon master, like, you run your table and you got your friends, right? Well, things change. Boy, oh boy, do I see this happening, man. We recently lost a game night because I was so thankful. One of our players called up and said, "You know what? I got a chest cough. I don't feel great," and I couldn't believe it. Called it like 5 p.m. We got a game going on at 8, and we just scrapped the whole night. We're like, hey, chill. You do your thing. Be healthy. Let us know next week if you're healthy. Comes back next week. All tests are good. He's healthy. Where I'm like, great, you're good, excellent. No worries, right? And it was just really helpful. But the other thing is, there's just so much. Like, the other one is, it looks like we may be changing the night or the schedule or the frequency for our game, because one of my players has a good job and he's going from like 30 hours to like 50 to 60 hours a week, because they can't hire anyone anywhere for anything right now. So if you got a good head on your shoulders and you're willing to work and stack that cash, they will let you work almost as many hours as you can almost anywhere now. Like, it's crazy, right? So basically, your game can change, right? And you could end up with a better set of players, a higher tier quality players, or you may be called to do dungeon mastering at the highest levels of the game, which would be for millennials and Gen Zs, right? Now, basically, if you are DMing for millennials and Gen Zs, you are doing the noble work of dungeon master, because you are preparing the future of the game. We must win millennials and Gen Zs for the game to survive, right? So if you got a bunch of old crusty boomers or Gen Xers sitting around your table, you think twice, man. See if you can get some Gen Zs or some Gen Zs or some millennials up in there, or this game's going to die, right? So you need to do the right thing, right? So when you come up, and the other issue is, what if you're called to run a streaming game, right? What if you're called to run even a commercial game? There are more and more people who are, I don't think there are many fully professional dungeon masters. That's still pretty rare. But there are definitely people got a dungeon master, paid dungeon master side hustle. That is definitely coming up. It's a real thing, right? So if you're called to come up to the big leagues, I just this week saw what it means to cut for someone who's a professional to be called up to the big leagues and then suck at it, right? And then admit that they sucked at it, right? I couldn't believe it. So here's what I saw, and this is why you should stop swearing, stop cursing, stop cussing, stop using spicy words in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign as a dungeon master and a dungeon player, okay? Here's why. Kyle Kulinski. All right. Now, who the heck is Kyle Kulinski? Well, he's a political commentator. He's been around for a while. He's mostly like a Bernie bro with some good ideas and some good political talking head juice and momentum, right? But he's got some interesting ideas. I think he's interesting. Now, I don't really care two farts about Kyle Kulinski. I don't really watch his channel, right? But I do watch the heck out of Breaking Point, which is the best daily news source on the planet. It's Crystal and Sauger. It's these two people. They're mostly liberal. Sauger pretends to be conservative, which is cute, but he's not. He's pretty outrageously liberal. And Crystal's very liberal. But they are a fantastic news source, and they cover traditional American political news, right? And I think they're fantastic. I really love them. Sauger went on vacation this week, and they brought in Kyle Kulinski, right, to cover for him. And at the end of the week, he said, Chris was like, "So what do you think? How do you think you did?" And he's, "Did you feel comfortable?" And he's like, "I really, I felt so honored to fill in for Sauger, And but one thing I really felt bad at is I could not stop cussing. I kept saying the F word, dropping all these F bombs, and S word and D word, and and he didn't say that. Yeah, he did. And I had seen and it was weird because normal Sagar's, he makes his point and he doesn't need to use an F word to make it right. But Kyle Kulinski admitted he could not get rid of his cussing, right? He wanted to. He had been called up to the big leagues, and they're like, here's the seat at the table. Why don't you act like a regular human being and have a discourse with the big, put your big girl pants on and have a discourse with real people, right? And he's used to just yammering on his channel, right? And he could not stop cussing. And he said, I'm ashamed that I could not get rid of my cussing for you guys and make, and talk the way you guys do. Just discuss politics without using the F word, right? So this is my point. Cussing is addictive, right? And when you get used to it, you can't just strip it out of your language, the way you like. So I would really suggest. And so basically, I want, if you're listening to this channel, we ain't talking about just if you want a kitchen table game, right? And you want to run for the same people for 10 years, and you don't want to be on the cutting edge of DMdom, this ain't the channel for you, right? I'm calling you to something bigger. And I'm telling you right now, Kyle Kulinski this week proved, right, that cussing is addictive, and that smart people, when they get called up to the big leagues, this is a bad habit that can keep your point from being heard, right? And generally nowadays, I think more and more, people are like, oh, you're just you're not a professional. You're not an intellectual. You're not a. If you need to use the F word to make your point, it's hard for people to take you seriously. They're like, oh, did you think this, professional discussion of American politics was like a Call of Duty chat? It's not, right? And that language isn't really needed here, right? So same thing, right? The top tier games, people are focused. They want to be able to bring anybody into the mix, right? Let's say you get, if an 18-year-old is an adult, right? But they're probably still living at their parents' house, right? And so, it matters, right? And you want to be inclusive and ready. And there are a lot of people who think the F word, the C word, the D word, the S word, these are totally inappropriate. But if you make a habit of putting them into your language all the time, it's going to be very hard for people to take you seriously as a dungeon master, in my opinion. That's my opinion. What do you think? Do you think that a serious dungeon master can use the F word in-game, the C word in-game, the D word in-game, the S word in-game, and really be considered good at what they're doing? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.